Last night I broke.
Country music often brings to mind wide-open roads, sentimental ballads, and close-knit communities. Yet beneath its friendly image lies a history of conflict over language, beliefs, and attitudes toward inclusion. These tensions keep resurfacing in ways that force fans, industry power brokers, and musicians themselves to grapple with uncomfortable realities. Although the genre is cherished for its down-to-earth sincerity, it has long wrestled with the legacy of racism and bias. Each time accusations surface, the reaction can be swift and heated, revealing ongoing divides about who and what country music represents. In this script, we focus on 21 figures who have faced serious questions tied to racist behavior or incendiary ideas. Together, their stories illuminate an enduring battle between tradition and progress. Morgan Wallen shot to prominence with a rough-edged charm that many fans admired. His voice, grounded in small-town imagery, seemed poised to dominate the charts for years. However, that rise hit a wall when he was recorded hurling the N-word after a late night out in early 2021. Almost immediately, radio juggernauts stopped airing his songs, digital platforms dropped him from prime playlists, and his record label handed down an indefinite suspension. Though Wallen apologized, many listeners were left wondering if the industry's reaction was genuine or simply a publicity move. On social media, fans debated whether this was the type of casual racism that had always lurked beneath the surface, suddenly thrust into the spotlight of a new era. Sales of his music skyrocketed in response, suggesting that a vocal portion of his audience felt he was a martyr to so-called cancel culture. Yet others insisted that tolerating such language perpetuated the exact kind of exclusion that had plagued country music for years. Wallen's eventual comeback, buoyed by sales and a lingering fan base, demonstrated the complexity of the moment. Was he sincerely repentant, or did the industry, hungry for profits, simply move on? Either way, the episode underscored a conversation about accountability and redemption, in a genre historically slow to confront issues of race. Hank Williams Jr., part of a royal country lineage, triggered outrage in 2011 when he compared President Obama to Adolf Hitler. The backlash was fierce and immediate, especially once a major sports network announced it would stop using his famous theme song. While he insisted his words had been distorted, the damage was already done. Many pointed out that invoking Hitler draws on one of history's most horrifying chapters, carrying an obvious link to extremist ideology. Supporters contended that this was typical political hyperbole, but others perceived it as an ugly moment from a high-profile musician long associated with a style of politics that veered into bigotry. Even if Williams Jr. felt misunderstood, the episode highlighted the precarious line country stars walk when voicing strong opinions that touch on race or identity. A single comment can reverberate through a fan base. Some dig in, rallying around their idol, while others recoil, insisting that statements so loaded cannot be brushed aside as mere rhetoric. Jason Aldean's controversy focused on a music video for "Try That in a Small Town," a track whose lyrics champion law and order. Critics noted that the video was partly filmed in front of a courthouse with ties to historical lynchings, and that the imagery of confrontation felt like a threat directed at protesters and outsiders. Aldean claimed that his song advocated unity, not intimidation. The ensuing firestorm led to edits of the final video and a heated debate over whether his choice of location was truly innocent or a calculated nod to certain political sentiments. Observers from outside the country sphere remarked that, intentional or not, the visuals touched a nerve in an era fraught with racial tensions. Aldean's supporters cast him as yet another target of overblown criticism, while others viewed the entire episode as a dog whistle aimed at reinforcing hostile attitudes. In the end, the clash illustrated how aesthetics and context can magnify perceived racial undertones in even the simplest creative decisions. Toby Keith, riding high on patriotic anthems that grew wildly popular after September 11th, faces ongoing accusations of promoting xenophobia. Some of his tracks appear to label entire groups as threats, leading critics to assert that they fuel a reductive worldview. Foreigners become stand-ins for dangerous enemies, while patriotism merges with cultural exclusion. Keith denies that he promotes hate, framing his music as supportive of American pride. Those who challenge him note how easily this concept of patriotism morphs into justification for prejudices that alienate people who don't fit a certain mold. To them, the problem is not love of country, but the conflation of that love with hostility toward perceived outsiders. Keith's defenders hold that he simply provides a strong, pro-American stance, not an anti-other one. Either way, the ongoing discourse reveals how country music's patriotic streak can raise serious questions about inclusivity. Then there's the jarring example of Johnny Rebel, born Clifford Joseph Trahan, whose 1960s recordings openly celebrated white supremacist language and ideology. Far from hinting at prejudice, his songs spewed it without restraint, bristling with ugly slurs. Obviously, mainstream channels wanted nothing to do with that filth. Yet in certain extremist circles, Johnny Rebel was revered for telling it like it is, championing an explicit message of racism. He never apologized or toned it down. In fact, he seemed to relish his role as a musical pariah. Even among controversies in country, his stands apart as an unvarnished testament to the extremes that can lurk under the broader umbrella of Southern-tinged music. He's the starkest reminder that, despite the more subtle controversies others embody, some artists make hatred their selling point. Loretta Lynn, an icon for women in country, found herself dogged by claims of insensitivity thanks to her track, "Your Squaw is on the Warpath." Though from decades ago, the title alone strikes many as offensive to Native Americans. Over time, certain releases omitted it, signaling an awareness that times have changed. Yet Lynn never spoke openly about the issue, leaving fans to guess whether she recognized the hurtful nature of the lyrics. On the one hand, she is lauded for championing women's independence in her music. On the other, that particular song underscores how easily cultural stereotypes slip in, even from artists known for advocating for the underdog. The quiet removal from reissues hints at an industry that might prefer to bury older offenses rather than confront them. Modern star Blake Shelton was burned by the digital age when old tweets with racist or culturally tone-deaf jokes were unearthed. He quickly apologized, emphasizing that he had grown since posting them. Still, the incident became another instance of fans asking whether these words reflected a deeper bias or a careless sense of humor that no longer flies. The difference now is that social media ensures nothing disappears forever. Randy Travis, revered for a voice that defined neo-traditional country, faced a major scandal in 2012 after an arrest led to revelations he allegedly slung racial and homophobic slurs while intoxicated. Although he later showed remorse, critics asserted that alcohol merely stripped away a filter, allowing real beliefs to escape. Travis's loyal admirers conversely pleaded that anyone can behave badly in a crisis. David Allan Coe, whose mainstream success included a rebellious outlaw persona, sank into even murkier waters with underground records crammed with explicit racial epithets. He dismissed them as shock-oriented humor, but the recurring slurs made it difficult to wave off as mere provocation. Meanwhile, Charlie Daniels forged a reputation for fiery opinions. Although best known for fiddling showmanship, Daniels posted statements many interpreted as racially or culturally hostile. He considered himself a patriot, plain and simple. Critics countered that some messages crossed into antagonism against marginalized groups, feeding a narrative of us versus them. That dynamic surfaced repeatedly when Daniels tweeted about national events, prompting arguments over whether his brand of pride courted bigotry. Chris Christopherson offers a subtler story. Celebrated as a progressive force and lyrical genius, he participated in a film with questionable portrayals of indigenous people. He did not publicly repudiate these depictions, spurring confusion among supporters who saw him as an ally to the marginalized. Perhaps it was one oversight, yet it underscored a pattern in which even well-meaning artists, known for championing the underdog, might fail to notice harmful portrayals if they are not personally affected. Merle Haggard landed in similar straits with Okie from Muskogee, which many took as a broadside against the counterculture and civil rights movements of the late 1960s. Though Haggard later claimed he was partly joking, the tune was embraced by conservatives as an attack on protests for racial and social change. It soared to popularity, unearthing fault lines about what mainstream country really valued at that historical moment. Trace Adkins upset audiences when he appeared on television wearing a Confederate flag earpiece, explaining it as a nod to heritage. Immediately, activists insisted the flag was a symbol of slavery, terror, and lasting injustice. Adkins refused to apologize, pointing fingers at a world obsessed with political correctness. Charlie Rich's controversy was stranger. In 1975, he ignited the envelope revealing John Denver's name as Entertainer of the Year. Some suspected hidden resentments toward the evolving face of country or underlying prejudices, though nothing concrete ever emerged. Rich never offered an official explanation, which left gossip swirling for decades. Hank Snow, revered for decades, stayed quiet when the industry was heavily segregated. Porter Wagoner, known for outlandish suits and comedic segments, apparently supported or overlooked policies that excluded black performers from prominent opportunities. Roy Acuff, likewise beloved, failed to champion marginalized artists who struggled against a system designed to keep them in the background. Farron Young allegedly made offensive remarks aimed at minority groups, never issuing a clear apology. Stonewall Jackson found himself in a legal battle involving age discrimination, during which prior insensitive behavior also came to light. None are known for hate-filled manifestos, but their collective acceptance of a segregated environment helped perpetuate the notion that country music remained a white domain. Though subtle, their complicity shaped the genre's gatekeeping ethos. Justin Moore, who lacks the long-standing impact of some legends, roused debate with tracks like Guns, which critics say border on endorsing vigilantism. Although Moore contends these songs celebrate rural self-sufficiency, others argue that such messages can be read as endorsing violence against perceived outsiders. With the painful history of racially motivated violence, these undertones unsettle many who listen closely. Moore dismisses the criticism, yet it mirrors a larger tension. References to firearms, local pride, and territory can easily shift into threatening language aimed at anyone different. Beyond these individual sagas, we confront the structural biases of the country music industry itself. For decades, it has borrowed from black artists' innovations while sidelining their careers. Legends like Mickey Guyton or Darius Rucker, who ascended despite the odds, attest to challenges including microaggressions, tepid label support, and sparse radio play. Even when mainstream success hits, they may face a constant need to prove they belong. Some awards shows historically shut out performers of color, and critics argue it's no coincidence when the winners remain overwhelmingly white. Recently, there has been a surge of corporate statements promising inclusion, yet cynics see only superficial gestures. Real progress, they say, will demand more than mere words on a press release. This systemic reality ties together the controversies around Morgan Wallen, Hank Williams Jr., Jason Aldean, Toby Keith, Johnny Rebel, Loretta Lynn, Blake Shelton, Randy Travis, David Allen Coe, Charlie Daniels, Chris Christopherson, Merle Haggard, Trace Adkins, Charlie Rich, Hank Snow, Porter Wagoner, Roy Acuff, Farron Young, Stonewall Jackson, Justin Moore, and every corner of the country music enterprise. Some represent overt hostility, while others illustrate a quieter complacency that consistently kept certain voices on the fringe. The question persists. Can country music preserve its cherished traditions while genuinely embracing diversity, or will it remain locked in patterns that produce the same scandals every few years? The heart of country music is storytelling, empathy, and collective experience. But these controversies reveal the limits of that empathy when it confronts race. Fans can be fiercely loyal, giving second chances to beloved stars while questioning whether condemnation is too harsh or necessary. At the same time, many in the audience are increasingly unwilling to dismiss damaging words or actions as inconsequential. The tension is obvious in the swift outcry that meets each scandal, whether it's a bigoted tweet or a video location that evokes a bloody past. Perhaps the genre is moving toward accountability, albeit unevenly. Younger fans often voice frustration when older icons appear to spout prejudice or tolerate it. Social media intensifies these battles, amplifying calls for boycotts or apologies. Some label heads pay attention, hoping to protect their investments by distancing themselves from controversy. Others might quietly wait, trusting that fans will forget. Those who champion inclusivity say forgetting is not an option, that repeated call-outs are essential to reshape a culture so strongly anchored in the past. Even so, the country music industry rarely renounces its legends outright. Artists with decades of legacy behind them are tricky to dislodge. And sometimes, as with Morgan Wallen, a controversy can paradoxically boost sales when supporters decide the star is under attack. This economic factor complicates matters further. If condemnation leads to profit, do labels truly have an incentive to address the root problem of racism, or is a well-timed apology enough to satisfy the broader market? In the midst of this swirl, there is genuine hope. Some stars, new and established, are openly advocating for change, calling out discrimination and uplifting fresh voices who once would have been ignored. Fans, too, are forming communities online to champion neglected perspectives. Black artists, indigenous artists, queer artists, and others outside the old country norms are taking up space, forging new sounds that still honor the storytelling tradition. Whether they'll be fully embraced or pushed again to the sidelines is not yet certain. But with every wave of scandal, the possibility of deeper introspection grows. Ultimately, these 21 controversies remind us that country music stands at a crossroads of heritage and innovation. Revering the past without examining it allows old prejudices to linger. Yet fully acknowledging the genre's roots in gospel, blues, and folk traditions, and the contributions of Black and other marginalized communities, could reshape the future. Doing so means grappling with the ghosts of a segregated era, disavowing hateful imagery and making room for voices that break from the white, rural archetype. Maybe that is where country music finds its next great story, a collective reckoning that leads to genuine transformation. The best songs often tackle heartbreak and redemption, universal themes that apply equally to the genre's own moral landscape. Reconciling with exclusion, giving real opportunities to all who love this music, and ensuring that vile words have real consequences may be the path to a deeper authenticity. Whether that path will be taken remains the pressing question. In the meantime, each scandal or offensive act keeps the conversation alive, urging everyone, artists, executives, and fans, to decide what the heart of country music truly stands for. All these histories affirm that the struggles over racism in country music reflect bigger cultural clashes. As generations turn and more diverse voices assert themselves, the tensions become clearer. Fans who cherish the old standards find themselves reckoning with stories that once went untold, while new audiences demand a broader perspective. Beneath every chart-topping melody or stadium-filling show lies a tapestry woven with countless influences, often denied full credit by those who wrote the earliest narratives. Each time the conversation ignites again, it forces a reckoning. Will the gatekeepers continue to guard a tradition that can be unfriendly to outsiders, or will they open the doors to let all talents share the stage? The answer may define whether country music remains anchored in past prejudices or embraces a modern evolution that honors every strand of its heritage. A healthy future for the genre might require the same bravery that artists show when they bare their souls in lyrics. If country music can face its contradictions with honesty, it can achieve lasting growth instead of cyclical outrage. The discourse, heated as it is, could ultimately unite fans around a deeper appreciation for the art and a shared respect for fellow listeners. Until that vision is fully realized, the stories of controversy will keep surfacing, reminding everyone that real inclusivity has yet to be firmly established. The power to reshape country music belongs to the fans, the artists, and the leadership. If they succeed, it might become a more welcoming and genuinely universal musical home. Its potential is immense, but it hinges on the willingness of every participant to confront uncomfortable truths head-on and evolve. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, and also click the next video shown on your screen.